Welcome back to the dopest show you won't get sick of. I'm Spencer, and this is Sasha. I spent most of my 20s in federal prison, but I've been off heroin since April 9, 2010. I've got a lot of stories about the stupid stuff I did to get put in prison. I've also got a lot of stories about the crazy stuff that happened when I was actually in prison. And God forbid you end up in prison. I want to make some of the same mistakes I made. Tales from the gutter. Lord, I got gutter. But this wasn't as much me being gutter. At this point, I had a connection at that time, and not advocating this lost my 20s federal prison, but this is some of the stuff that happened that was pretty wild, that was really interesting. Okay, so I have a friend. It's the same friend that I told a story about previously that took half a sheet of acid and threw his mom in the shower, body slammed her in it because he thought she was on fire. Don't do drugs. Bad stuff can happen. Before that, he kept taking a blanket. I hid his stuff for him, and I got out of there, but heard he ended up in a psych ward for a little bit. Didn't see him after that. Heard the story from him later on, though. But anyway, it's about him, okay? He comes from a good family. Really good family. Nice house. Hippie guy, though. You'd guess he's just any old dirty hippie. You wouldn't guess he's from reasonably rich family. And, he was a complete addict, just as I was, just as many of us were. It completely took over and hit my area. And everybody I know from my age group is still doing it because everybody was on it. So, I mean, they don't accept you can't hang out with the same people you used to hang out with. You sit in a barbershop long enough, you're going to get a haircut. I mean, that's just how it is. And it took me cutting everybody out of my life completely that was part of that to get where I am now. But anyway, so this guy, and another thing about this guy, he's got hepatitis C. That's another thing that happened to him throughout his addiction. He would let people know, and he was responsible with not sharing, and he let people know, no, I can't share it. I've got Hep C, which I do respect. I do respect that. And that's something that people should do. There was a guy that went around that was HIV positive that was using needles, and he'd leave his needle place, and people didn't know, and found that out later. It was a scary thing to hear about. And but anyway, so at this point I was dealing. There were times when I was gutter as could be because a connection fell out, got arrested, left town, whatever, at which time I would use up all my money, and then I'd have to pay retail. I wouldn't be able to buy it wholesale like I used to. I didn't have a connection. I wasn't making money, so I'd burn up all my money, and I'd end up gutter as could be. And even when I was dealing, had pretty good amount of money, I had no credit. I was an underage dealer, so surfing to the nicest couch. A lot of the adults of our time failed us. One of my friend's dads allowed me a room in his house for a cheaper per bag price, and I had to keep a back reserve from him. I was to never run out. Even when I ran low, I quit. I had to keep that amount, never run out for him. It's a grown man letting a kid, one of his son's friends, live in his house and let me turn that house into a trap spot. I mean, they failed us. But at this time anyway, I was living at this place, the Villages at Garth Creek, I believe, was where I was living at this. Yeah, it definitely was because I remember that. Okay, so there was a funny setup. What happened was my buddy, the one who ended up telling on me, set me up, who's texting in the back of the car when I was getting a ride from. One of my friends was driving. He was in the back. They were both setting me up. He texted in the back seat, letting Vice know where we were going to meet my dealer. I thought my dealer set me up. He thought I set him up. And it took me years to understand and accept it. And I did get confirmation. He's passed now, but his stepdad did confirm to my mom that he cried his eyes out to his mom any night saying it was the biggest mistake he made, that he set me up. It really hurt me. It still messed me up about it. But anyway, he had an apartment. He ended up moving back home. I lived in this apartment. Now, the people across the hall we made friends with. It was just some dude and his girlfriend. The girlfriend was a stripper. Call her, she'd strip at your house. I'm guessing she did other things too, but there was a time when they got caught. That was actually, she definitely did things too sometimes. But one time we drove her to it was like a police ball and firefighters and police at a fire station, and she stripped for him. She's like, do you want to come watch me dance? And I'm like looking at him, looking at her, like she's asking if we want to come watch her dance. That seems like it'd be awkward for him and everything else, but she got paid pretty good money. But they end up moving out of this apartment. They got to get a new place, but they've got like another couple months on it. And I make an agreement with them that I will pay them $20 a day to stay in this apartment. It's still got a nice sectional, big TV, everything else. And the apartment across the hall is my trap apartment. So whenever people would come up to the apartment, I'd say, go on, just walk on in the apartment. And they'd walk in an apartment that basically had a mattress on the floor, a table, and a little TV on the floor, I think. And I'd watch through the peephole. It was right across the hall, second floor. I'll take you guys there, and I'll videotape the exact locations of this one day. But I'd watch them through the peephole. I'd watch them walk in, shut the door. I'd wait about 5 seconds, and I'd walk in behind them, and they'd be like, whoa, where'd you come from? They didn't know I had the place across the hall. I actually saw the place get raided one night, and I watched it through the peephole, and I stood over a toilet for about 2 hours while they were raiding the apartment across the hall. When they were looking for me, I was right there. But I was in this place. And this guy asked me if I want a flat screen TV, if I'll trade him so much for it. I believe it was about $300. This was back when flat screens were exclusive. It was the new stuff. They weren't. It was right when they first started becoming a thing. Okay, and yeah, I want a flat screen. And because the other TVs there it's going to end up getting sent back to Aaron's. So I want a flat screen. Take the couch to couch as I surf my way dealing around. So he comes over, gives it to me, and I'm like, well, this is awesome. It's brand new. And probably 2 days later, he called me back, asked me if I wanted another one. I'm like, nah, the one's good. He's like, I'll sell it to you for cheaper. And I'm like, oh, how much cheaper? And he said, $250. I said, I don't need another one that bad, man. He said, $200. I said, I don't need it that bad. He said, $150. I said, bring it over. He brought it over. I'm like, all right. Another 2 days, he calls me with another flat screen. I'm like, dude, where are you getting these? What are you doing? I don't need any more flat screen. I mean, sell it to me cheap enough I could possibly resell it. Maybe we could work something out. But what is going on? Where are you getting flat screens from? And he told me his scam. So he was going to Walmart, and apparently, I've never done the returns and all this. I never did the steal and return and stuff. But what he told me was he would go into Walmart, purchase something for $5. He'd leave, he'd come back, he'd show the greeter that he was returning something. They'd give him a sticker to put on it. He'd walk in one door, get the sticker, put it on it, then he'd walk through the store with a grocery cart, load a flat screen up inside the grocery cart, peel the sticker off the item he'd purchased previously, put it on the flat screen, walk right out the other door with it. Yeah, he stole realistically probably 150, 200 from various Walmarts. They caught on, it became a thing. And ultimately, he was charged with stealing 67 flat screens when it all came down. I remember weird things with numbers. I'm about certain it was 67. But anyway, that was what happened with that. There was another story. I drove somebody. It was a crazy thing where he stole, I believe it was like a PlayStation 3. He act like I'll tell that in another one. But anyway, the second guy who ended up paying me $450 for 3 lighters. This was not in jail. This was in the free world. Okay, Roanoke, Virginia. For the longest time, there were small circles of heroin distribution. I drove for the main guy who was the guy back when I was 16. He used me. I see that now. What were they doing hanging out with a 16-year-old when they're in their 30s? I mean, it'd be like me hanging out with a 16-year-old. Yeah, some 16-year-olds are cool, but I mean, chilling with them every day and everything like that. Come on now. Maturity, everything else, but I look at it and I see it for what it is now. I got used. He would have gotten decades for what I would have gotten months for, or probably about a year in juvenile hall for. Okay? And there were some drivers of certain people I knew who got caught, and they got like 10, 11 months for what you would have gotten literal decades in prison for. For the longest time in Roanoke, cops didn't know what it looked like. It looks like a BC powder bag folded up into a little rectangle, piece of tape around it. There was a time my car got searched, and I couldn't remember where I put it. I hid it from myself, and I was looking for it, and they asked it. There was somebody who'd reported my car, one of the neighbors of the place I was at, and I'll tell this whole, but basically they searched the car, they lifted up the mats and everything, they saw it, the little BC powder thing. They didn't even pick it up. They thought it was just trash. I kept the car kind of gutter too, sometimes I had to live in it, so yeah, there's some trash in the passenger floorboard, so they probably just overlooked it, didn't even know what it was. And that was at a certain point. That was about 16, 17 years ago. Then there was somebody who came in who changed the whole game. There were 4 kingpins that got busted all at one time. I remember because I was in Roanoke County Jail. I had just quit drug court for the first time, did my 6 weeks, took my time, and I remember seeing it on TV. I knew, pretty much all of them. I knew of two of them personally. But the other two in passing. I'd seen them, they'd seen me. But there were 4 kingpins that got busted. The one that really made things bad in Roanoke, that took it from small pockets of people to mega time, was a guy who went by Dollar Rob. Dollar Rob ended up getting the most time out of the bunch. I believe the rest of them all. Actually, no, there was another one that got a lot of time too, named Cindy. Now, Cindy ended up getting 20 years because the guy who I lived with, whose dad let me live with them, had just been to her place, and they were driving back, and he fixed up in the car and he passed out. The girl he was driving with freaked out, and she pulled a cop over, said, "Help us." Well, of course they searched the car. They didn't need EMS. He woke up, but because EMS was called, they deemed it an overdose. And even though he lived, Cindy got 20 years for that. He told on her, obviously, he was like 16, he wouldn't have gotten any time. And, she shouldn't have been selling anything to a 17-year-old. That ain't right. But, he told on her. She got 20 years. She was the first person I ever saw that got a case like that. But, yeah, he lived. And that was one of them. But Dollar Rob made it mega time. I've talked about the hotel. My friend Chris, who is now deceased, his girlfriend, she got 6 years for taking his life, and I got 8 years for a deal that happened in my apartment in which I didn't arrange a profit off of. They asked for 15. Judge gave me 8. Lawyer asked for 0. They asked for 15. Took an open plea. Basically, my lawyer says some stuff. I say I'm sorry for everything. The prosecution says some stuff. The judge makes up his mind. He said 0, 15, 8. Can't really complain about that. It's pretty fair. It's right in the middle. But anyway, got less time for taking my friend's life. That's disgusting. Anyway, so he was at this hotel, and he was distributing to people I knew. His dealer was on the 2nd floor, and that guy's dealer was on the 3rd floor, who was a girl. The girl got caught, I believe, with 22 50-bag bricks, after the guy on the 2nd floor got caught in the elevator with a 50-bag brick. She was taken to jail, federally charged. He didn't get a day. He told on her. It was obvious. And my friend, who I got out of there because I saw the undercover cop watching and taking notes with a charger with the lights off, but you could see at night, you could see the exhaust going, you could see this guy in this tinted window. I'm like, man, I got to get you out of here, man. Something bad's going to happen. That girl's connection, the one that got caught with all that on the 3rd floor, was Dollar Rob. She was like the person, one of his main people. And it all ended up falling apart for him. His son actually got in trouble later on. But anyway, there were 2 other people, and they were all associates. They all knew each other indirectly, had different relations and stuff, but they all did their own thing. There was another guy who went by Light. He was mega time. He was the most money, but he dealt with everybody. He dealt with 14-year-olds. He dealt with anybody. And going rate back then was 25 per bag, and he was selling it for 150 for 10, just straight up to anybody, everybody. Didn't matter if they were kids. He had no morals. They said 2 overdoses were pretty much deaths where you could track to him, but he told on enough people that he only got 10 years in prison. I got 8 years for a deal that took place in my apartment that I did not arrange. He got 10 years. 2 people that they're about certain that it came from him that passed away, and sold, literally, I cannot tell you the amount of money and stuff this guy went through and everything else. Okay. Now, the guy I'm talking about in question was another guy who went by Chief. He owned a barber shop, but he also sold a pretty tremendous amount. He was a little bit smarter than the other people, but he had a brother that was, he was a rock head. He liked smoking rock all day, every day. And because his brother was giving it to him for the same, pretty more or less the same price he was getting it for, Chief was giving his brother, who went by Jesus. He told people Jesus when you asked his name. I called him G. I couldn't call a man Jesus. I couldn't do that. He's a black dude, and he had a fat white girlfriend who went by Shadow. And they just sitting there smoking rock all day, using all the profits up. But because his brother could get it to him for such a discounted rate, he's selling it to him $250 for 50 bags, which is $5 a piece. He was selling it for $25 a piece, $200 for 10, and he was smoking every bit of it up. And he'd get so wigged out in this apartment, smoking rock, that he'd be scared to leave. He'd be scared to death to leave. So first time he calls me, and it's like he couldn't speak. Like when people do that, they get stuck, I call it. They're like, they can't speak when they smoke that stuff. It's crazy. And I'm like, yeah, man, what's up? He's like, if you bring me a lighter, I'll give you a bundle. I'm like, all right. Yeah, I'll be over in about 15 minutes. I did it. He gave it to me. And, yeah, this happened 3 separate occasions. I got $150, well, I guess technically it's $200 worth, was the price he was selling to most people, but $150 worth for bringing him a lighter, a little cheap big lighter from the store. It cost like $2. He had me drive from across town. He lived a quarter mile from the gas station. It took me 20 minutes to drive to his place, and he's a quarter mile from a gas station. Okay, I did videos where I said, "See where it happens." It's at the same. It was in the exact same projects that we used to sell at. See, we had a trap spot. We kept it empty at this one apartment. It was ground level. Across the street, also on the ground level, was his mom. That was his stash spot during the day. I'd be running across the street all day long as a 16-year-old, going to the stash spot, handing it off, everything else, and basically babysat him. Once I moved in, he basically just stayed, the Kingpin just stayed so messed up he couldn't even function. Basically, I was conducting all daily business. And at nighttime, we'd drive to a place called Newcastle, which is in the country, because no cops or robbers knew where we were at. The trap spot got kicked in a couple times, never found anything, nothing was in there. But yeah, now it was at those same apartments, and yeah, they just stayed in there all the time, all day, all night, just smoking up. I actually fenced a good bit of stuff to him too. A couple dealers that I ended up robbing. I never robbed a dealer that didn't have it coming. You know, they had to do something to offend me. Never ripped anybody off, so I didn't buy any fake stuff or anything like that. But people who did that to my friends took the worst beating of my life because of that. I robbed a re-up and left these guys broke, where they had to start borrowing nickels and dimes, and the worst whooping I've taken in my life. I was blind for 36 hours. I'll tell that story another day. That was my biggest deal. And yeah, and it was bad. But anyway, this was a story, tales from the gutter. You know, I can talk about it now, look back at it, tell these stories. They can be educational. You can learn something from it. But the one thing you need to learn is all 4 of those Kingpins ended up getting federal prison time. Even the guy who told on everybody got 10 years. Okay? I believe everybody but Dollar Rob told. I'm not quite sure on that. I don't think Cindy told either. She ended up getting 20. But, you know, it ended bad. Even for the people that told. It ended bad. They ended up in federal prison. And a lot of people aren't with us today. You know, and that's something to take note of. 44 friends of mine, not acquaintances. If it was acquaintances, I know hundreds. Literally hundreds. 44 personal friends. I know their mom, dad, sister, brother. I can tell you stories about them all growing up. Have passed, you know, from drugs or drug-related violence. It's sad. It sucks. There was somebody recent that I spoke about way early on in videos that I was probably going to get on here that I, you know, emailed with when he was in jail, kind of like a prison work camp type thing. And he got out, went to like 2 judo classes, then made excuses, ended up he's back in jail now. That's upset me a whole lot. I don't get detach myself from people that I help, but having emailed with this person, you know, looked at him like a little brother, I saw myself in him. And if he gets back out again, we'll give it another try. You know, I'm not mad at him. I did the same thing. I went back over and over. I told people I wanted to when I didn't. But sometimes it takes that. You know, I just hope he doesn't have to do a decade in prison. I hope he does a decade in prison over not making it, overdosing, passing away. You know, it's better to do a decade and learn your lesson from that than just not have a chance anymore. For me, it took a year in jail and facing 220 to life charges on something I didn't do to clean up for the 2 years I was out on bond. But they still gave me 96-month sentence. Counted the jail credits, which was like 13 and a half months. There was like a year, there was like 7 weeks. They even counted a weekend. The judge was nice for that because I got arrested the same night that the federal crime happened, so he ruled that since I got arrested the same night it happened, he'd count it as jail credit. Got a year for good time, a year for the RDAP drug program. But you know, I just got off probation. I have not been in trouble since April 9th, 2010. I just got off probation. This has occupied my entire life. I've lived in fear of making a boo-boo to get sent back, that I've lived so carefully and clean. And even when I'm doing everything right, I've lived in fear. It's not been fun. The consequences of my actions have been something that have been, it's been consuming, all consuming for the last, until just now, just recently. It's it's been a cloud that's hung over me. It's been a dark cloud that follows me everywhere. I've been on a vacation since I was like 16 years old, okay? My biggest vacation was driving to a ghetto in Baltimore or Newark, New Jersey, or Philly to pick something up and just getting to see the sights. And even then it was all business and I was out. It's taken this long for me to be able to get my life back and feel like, I don't have that dark cloud. And even still, like, part of me, it's hard to believe and accept. Like, I might still be on it. I got a letter, I got confirmation, everything else, but part of me just like, it's like I can't believe it. And, I want to go somewhere, I want to have some fun, go on a vacation. I will soon, but it's like I can't believe that it's done now, but it's taken this long, that much of my life. So that's something to take into account. If you are in active addiction, it's opiate related, I'd suggest a small Suboxone clinic, mainly because they do additional medications. They do a more personal basis. Methadone clinics are great. They help a lot of people if it's at many clinics. The one that's local here is not a good one. There's mainly because the staff there. There have been staff that have been caught giving people less dose than they're actually dosed, that are stealing a little bit of each person's dose to take it home and sell it to people, and just everything is just not good at the one that's local, which form my opinion, but there are other ones that are really good and help people. But I like small Suboxone clinics. There's about 3 that I send people to. They're small. They have 5 to 10 people a group. You meet like once, twice a month, depending. So I think one of them makes people go like 3 times a week, but some are less. Some just make people go once a month, and they help people. They give them the medications they need, because oftentimes addicts have dual diagnosis. Myself, I have ODB, OCD, ADD, and bipolar. And a lot of the time, if 5 people sit down and try a drug, one person will get up addicted. They won't be able to shake the feeling because they felt uncomfortable in their skin their whole life. When they tried the drug, they felt normal. The same thing can be done with non-narcotic medications that stabilize. A lot of times, addicts are people that have additional mental health issues, and these small clinics will give you the medications that you need to get that way, in addition to Suboxone, and you quit when you're ready. Not when anybody tells you, but when you're ready, and when you taper down, please talk to your doctor. A lot of people are too ashamed. It's not to say, I wasn't ready, and they go back to using, rather than tell their doctor, I need to go back up and dose. I can't handle this. Don't be ashamed. Communication is the biggest part of recovery, and acceptance, and, tricking yourself into believing you can do just one. I did that for a long time. I cannot do just one. If I do just one, it's over. I'll be robbing drug dealers within a week because I'm not going to sell ever again. And bad stuff will happen. The fire truck, the ambulance, and the police will all end up at spots that I just exited quick. And I know that's going to happen. That's going to happen probably after I have a yard sale. Everything must go. I don't have a god-awful lot, but I've got a few possessions I really am proud that I've gathered over time. I've got a Muhammad Ali autograph picture that's sealed in from Global Authentics verification. I'm scared to hang it up because I'm scared it'll fall off the wall, so I keep it hidden somewhere. It's kind of foolish, but I love that picture. I've got a few silver bars. Silver's a great investment. I bought the first few bars at $1,200 an ounce. It's around $2,500 an ounce. It's already doubled. In the next 5 years, with electric cars and solar panels being something that needs silver. Solar panels, it takes like an ounce per panel to make. And electric cars, the batteries use silver. So it's being consumed more than it used to, so there's going to be a demand for it. And in the next 5 years, it's anticipated it could go up to 50 to 100 an ounce. It's been over 50 an ounce for it. It's been a while. But right now, it's a good time to buy it. Even though it's doubled since just a few years ago, it's still a good time to buy it. It's what I've been putting, any extra money I have for savings, into silver. I've got a good little collection of it, and that's just free tip figured I'd give you. Families in the jewelry business, so, gold's good too, but silver's better. Silver's better in my personal opinion. If you're going to get something, try to get it at actual value of price per ounce that you can buy. Don't buy it at a markup, because then you won't be making the same money you would otherwise. Try to buy it for scrap weight if you're going to buy it. So yeah, if I use, all that's gone. And it's that. And I'm a good son to my mother. I'm a good brother to my sister, a good son to my dad. And Casey, she's had a life that's of unspeakable horrors, one thing after another, from the time she was a child. Her mom was forced to marry somebody who assaulted her and got her pregnant because that was the good Christian thing to do. She was 13. Casey was born the next year when her mom was 14. Her mom's living great. Her mom was saved from the guy who assaulted her. She was forced to marry by her stepdad, Casey's stepdad, who's raised her as her own. They're both very good people, the best people you could hope to meet, just as Casey is. And unspeakable things have happened to her, but she still sees the world as a beautiful place. She's like, it's wonderful. And I'm like Frank from Shameless. I'm like, I've seen it. It sucks. But, her positive outlook, it's something that's so beautiful about her. But because she's been hurt so many times, if I'm gone, I can't guarantee that she'll be protected. With me, she'll never get hurt again. She married when she was 16 years old to somebody who was like 25. Okay, and he got her to marry her because she showed up to school with a broken nose with makeup trying to cover it with all the vessels busted in her eye. And they were going to charge him. Well, he married her. She thought, because he loves me. Well, no, so she wouldn't have to testify against him. Broke her nose 3 times, unspeakable horrors. Then the next guy only put his hands on her every once in a while. So she figured, well, he's a good man. He doesn't do it. He doesn't beat me every day. And she was brainwashed, and I had to tell her, no, never is it okay for anybody to put hands on. And I basically, saved her just as her stepdad did her mom. And if I go back to using, I don't know what would happen to her. If what could happen, potentially anything else. But with me, the only reason that more hasn't happened to people I've done stuff is because, certain promises I made to her, one person I had a plan for, and I got mad at God because they passed before I was able to do it. I had an elaborate plan, and they passed of an overdose, and I had to ask God forgiveness for that because I was mad that I didn't get my chance. I'm a nice guy today. I've calmed down a lot. But when it comes to certain things like that, I'm not the guy who goes around telling everybody what I'm going to do. I'm the guy that never speaks a word of it. You'd never have a clue, and sneaks up in the shadows. That person's changed. I'm a good person today. But when it comes to people that do stuff like that, and never do anything to somebody that didn't deserve it, but I can't risk using because I've got to be there for her. And yeah, we make each other better. That's the first person I can say that with. Every girl that came over, growing up, I tell mom before they got there a pre-made excuse for at such and such time, say I've got to do this and get him out of here. She's the first person I can stand to be around consistently. I don't like being around people for more than a couple hours. I'm an unusual person. I like being alone. She's the only person I can be with all day, every day, and still enjoy every second of it. And I owe it to her to keep myself right. And I can't keep myself. I can't do just one. So just leave on that note. If you liked it, press the like button. That was a little bit of a rant, but when you've got a little bit of time and people count on you, it's no longer, you can't be selfish. Addiction is selfish. Recovery is selfish. I've had to cut a lot of people out. It's selfish. You have to cut people out. That's a selfish part of it. But you have to come first to get yourself right. Then after you've been right for a while, you've got people that count on you. And, it's nice to know that those people know they can count on me. So if you like to press the like button. If not, that's 28 minutes and 48 seconds of your life, which you'll never get back, but I really do hope you did. Other videos will be coming out tonight, as I usually do. There's another fitness one. If you don't like it, don't watch it. I'm still doing my regular stuff. I'm always going to do my regular stuff. This is in addition to that. My mom and dad are not together. They've both remarried. They live separate. Mom's back went out recently. She's having serious issues with that. My dad's having his second knee surgery. Ironically, my stepdad had 2 knee surgeries in the past month. Oh, got to press this button. It's all good, though. What are the chances my dad and stepdad would have 2 knee surgeries in the same month? And that my mom's back would go out, and Casey's mom would have 3 ruptured discs in her neck. What are the chances of that? And then I get the sickest I've ever been in my life. My lungs are just now recovering. And Casey gets kidney infection, and the kid's got freaking lice. I'm scared to death. I'm itching, checking myself. I'm probably going to shave my head. That'll be the reason if I do. I'm a hypochondriac. It scares me to death. But I mean, Lord, it's a lot of stuff to happen at one time. It's been the most trying month, and the kid who I was, trying to help out going back that I wasn't detached about, it's got me a little upset. Somebody responded something a little bit like saying they might have to unsubscribe if I do workout videos, and I made a post that wasn't nice, and I usually don't react like that, and I do feel bad about reacting like that, but if you don't like it, just don't watch it. It's to help my family, but also it can help a few people that want to get in shape. Besides obesity, losing mobility is one of the leading causes of people passing away, and if you do stuff to get yourself where you won't go immobile, it can extend your life. And if you don't like it, you just don't have to watch it. I'm still doing my regular stuff. I promise. I'm not diverting. I'm not changing, I'm going to do the boxing channel for Scott Sigmund's gym on a separate channel very soon. But that's something separate. This is always going to be the way it is. I'm always going to respond to every comment I can, in depth. Go look at the workout video. Look at the comment section. Go on the comments and look at all the comments I made and how in depth. I really try to be my best for you guys. I try to be the best that I wish other channels did that I like. And I'm always going to do that. I'm not going to abandon you ever. I do have life issues just like anybody else, and I'll apologize for that at times. But, I'm going to do this better than anybody else. Whatever I do, it's 100%, and I'm going to do this better than any other channel does it. And that's what I can promise you guys. You can always count on me for that. It's not going to change. This has been like a therapy for me. This is actually talking about this stuff. This is stuff I couldn't talk about. I don't have any friends that are felons. Anybody that's been in jail or prison. My friends, at judo, got an architect genius coach. I've got a psychiatrist doctor, like a genius computer nerd that I train with. Telling them prison stories, they'd probably be nervous about being around me if I talk about it. I haven't been able to talk. I bottled this stuff up for 4 or 5 years. So thank y'all for being a part of this. This helps me. And I try to help give good advice. If you need it, you ask it. I do my best. I don't do email. People ask me that. And, I have rules for myself. I live a secluded life. And part of it's detachment from everything. This on here, I will respond as long as I can. I might change that in the future, but it's how it's been. It's how I do it. I've got my ways. I don't do Facebook. Don't do any of this. This is the only thing I do. I respond with a 5-page long response. I promise you I will. And if you respond, I'll respond back. It's been taking me a little bit on my responses recently because of the laundry list of stuff. When it rains, it pours, I've just mentioned. But if you need help, ask in the comments, and I'll respond in the comments. I promise I will. Go on an old video and comment. And comment a couple times on an old video. I'll see it in my YouTube studio, and I'll go comment on it. Nobody's going to go back there and look. And we can delete it when we're done if you don't want to do it. I mean, so, sorry for that rant. That went on way too long. But, I love you guys. You guys have helped me. You have. It's been the hardest month of my life since I've been home from prison, and y'all have been tremendous, so thank you.